Let me turn this off too, so you guys can see okay. Everybody doing good today? Well, thank you all so much for being here. So, as you can tell in the title, this is titled Leadership, Mental Health, and the Road to Figuring Out That Great Leaders Don't Have It All Figured Out. If I am anything as a person, as a leader with ASDA and otherwise, I like to think that I'm an open book. And I like to think that I'm very candid about the struggles and issues that I have had in both leadership and outside of those capacities. So if you hear something or something resonates with you in today's presentation that you would like further discussion on, I also pride myself on being pretty open. So just reach out, Instagram, message, carrier pigeon, and I'll be happy to talk with you more at length. So, wish we had a clicker thing, but that's all good. So thank you for joining me. I hope that lunch is going well. So just an overview about today's topics. I want to just give you kind of a broad level overview, kind of a 1,000-foot view about me, and then a little bit about the association which we all hold so dear. Number two, I want to give you an overview of ASDA's wellness initiatives. Even though we have a really, really great wellness team here locally, sometimes we can kind of forget the things that are offered to us in terms of national and district resources in the field of wellness. I'll give you kind of a picture into what my leadership journey has looked like through dental school, and then what's next. What is next? Okay, so a little bit about myself. I'll be pretty quick because you guys know me mostly. I was born and raised in Beebe, Arkansas. I'm married to my wife, Miranda. I am a proud dog father to Tilly and a cat dad to Abra. That's them down in the bottom right. I got my undergraduate degrees in voice and master's degree also in voice performance. And I worked a little bit before school, a bunch of odd jobs. I worked as a ticket rep. I worked as a connectional coordinator for a church. I worked at Walmart as a customer service rep. So whenever you guys say living the dream here at school, I know in fact that you are lying, because people working at Walmart said the same thing when I asked them how they were doing. And I know that they were not living the dream because I wasn't either. So my likes include singing, eating, traveling, video games, and a host of other things. I've had recent choir performances with the composer and conductor Eric Whitaker. Andrea Bocelli back in December, got to sing at the Yum Center, which was really cool. And then I got to perform in Mammoth Cave with Yo-Yo Ma last April. And that's me and Mr. Ma. Call him Yo-Yo, we're on first name basis down on the bottom left. Really, really nice guy. And I say that I'm the world's fastest backwards crab crawler because I've not met my equal yet, or someone who can surpass me. So, could be you. So, a little bit about our association. So just as LASDA is a locally based chapter, underneath or above the LASDA umbrella is a much larger umbrella consisting of around 72, 71 other local ASDA chapters. And that comprises 11 districts, then comprising our entire national ASDA system. So the mission of our national ASDA association is that the American Student Dental Association is a national student-run organization that protects and advances the rights, interests, and welfare of dental students. It introduces students to lifelong involvement in organized dentistry and provides services, information, education, representation, and advocacy. Would you guys say that LASDA does a pretty good job of addressing that mission statement at the local level? I would too. Are there things that we can improve on? Most certainly, always, right? That's why we're a student association. We're always wanting to learn. And our vision is to advance the dental profession by developing exemplary leaders and inspiring member advocacy. This point is pretty key, so don't just shirk off the 4 years that you have here, the opportunities that you have to learn, to network, to engage with ASDA, with LASDA, with any sort of the ASDA system. We love acronyms, right? If it's ADIA, if it's SPIA, if it's AAWD, if it's SNDA, if it's any of these associations, ones that I haven't mentioned, then please find yourself a way to get involved. You'll be all the better for it. Our core values include passion, community, engagement, and integrity. Now, ASDA finds itself nestled within what is known as ASDA District 7. As I mentioned, there are 11 districts currently configuring ASDA nationally, and ASDA belongs with 6 other chapters, so 7 chapters in District 7 comprising 4 states: Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, and Wisconsin. And you can see the school names listed there. Sorry, I put UK above Louisville. I did not mean to do that. But we're democratic, right? We hold each other equally. So this is just kind of the cabinet system of what ASDA District 7 looks like. It may be a little bit different. This is how I designed the cabinet structure. There's now been two trustees after me. So the current trustee, Darius, some of you who may have applied for a district position might know his name, or if you went to annual session, he's a really great guy. But this is what helps to organize how the work and the functions run at the district level. It's very similar here at the local level. So if you have any questions about how our local system runs in terms of our executive committee and then the positions that are populated underneath that, feel free to reach out to your exec team here. Okay. So, as promised, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of ASDA's 5 platforms of wellness. I think it's really helpful to kind of compartmentalize these different elements of what wellness means to us as dental students, to us as future practitioners, and to us as a student association, right? That doesn't mean that there aren't overlaps from one to the other, right? Just because something is emotional wellness that I'm listing up here doesn't mean that it can't firmly find itself also in the field of environmental wellness. So these are just meant to help you kind of be able to categorize how and where you feel well is more important than where those wellness elements end up. I like to couple my presentations with a lot of real world examples and pictures from my own life. So in this wellness overview, you'll see lots of images of how I consider that I am living well in these arenas. Full disclosure, I am not a wellness guru. I am not a wellness expert. Physical wellness, I think, has gone down the drain like 8 years ago. Emotional wellness, I'm always, upkeeping that, as are we all, I'm sure, in dental school. So don't let me, presenting this presentation on a capstone career in ASDA fool you into thinking that there haven't been some low roads, right? In fact, if that's what you take away with I had sunshine and rainbows throughout dental school, then I have failed as a presenter today. My primary goal is to make this accessible and for you to kind of have a toolkit if this is something that you're interested in during dental school or after, to know kind of what your next steps can be. So emotional wellness includes our ability to express our feelings healthily, right? Not that we have to wear our emotions on our sleeve all the time, but our ability to convey those things when needed. Our ability to handle stressful situations. How many of you have not been stressed in the last week? Okay, yeah, right? No, I'm just kidding. It includes keeping our relationships healthy. How many of you have felt like, you don't have to raise your hand, but you've had a strained relationship while in dental school? How many of you have felt that has been due to dental school directly, right? Or your lack of time to commit to the ones that are back home. Nobody understands it like we do here. It's just difficult to spend the 3 hours conveying the struggles that you've had over the last week. And let's be honest, people don't necessarily want to hear about them anyway, right? If they're not in dental school. So that can be tough. Being emotionally well, I think, is one of the most difficult components of dental school. And then optimism, self-esteem, self-acceptance. Nothing will send that out the window like a feedback on a class 2 prep, right? So I've got a few little pearls. Hopefully you'll find them helpful here. Just digestible little tips, and I have these for all of our wellness platforms. And that includes, don't lose sight of those closest to you on the way up. So just because we're busy, just because we're all getting a DMD, we might be getting an MSOB, we might be going on to OS, we might be running for a leadership position in one of our many opportunities that we have presented to us. Don't forget that there's a whole group of people that help you get to where you are, right? And there's a whole another group of people that are actively helping you get where you're going right now. So always be thankful for the people sitting right next to you. I sure know that I am, because without them I would have pulled my hair out, what hair I have left, long ago. Okay, these are my siblings. We do a sibling piggyback. My oldest brother Josh is a rock. If I was his configuration, I would not be able to be the base. Again, that's Miranda. This is right after I ran for executive committee, and this is our District 7, which I'll go into a little bit more detail on the culture that we have been able to cultivate there. This is right after D2 fall semester, I believe. Tyler, I see you in there. If there's anybody else, Spencer, I think you went to that as well, that went to Diorio's Pizza. Reward yourself, treat yourself, right, with a little bit of an emotional upliftment, and do that with the people that that have been through that difficult thing with you, right? And then I fostered some puppies back in 2021, so that's a really great way to stay emotionally well, or not to stay emotionally well, depending on how you look at it. They keep you busy. So some physical wellness, points of consideration here. This is probably the one where I just don't even attempt. I consider myself to be not so sedentary anymore just because of how mobile the dental curriculum is, especially when you get up in clinic, how much you're on your feet from day to day. But I do a piss poor job of actually prioritizing exercising, going out and setting aside 30 to 45 minutes to actually do something with my body. I want to get better with that. I get little ins and outs of it in vocal performance because that is very strenuous, but again, that's few and far between. And then routine checkups is really important. Up in the top left, that's me right before I got a gingival graft here on campus. Don't do that. Don't get a gingival graft. I'm not saying don't get it here on campus, but just take care of your gums and don't have to get a gingival graft because it's not like a severe pizza burn like they tell you. It's far worse. Keep a balanced diet. Again, as a dental student, this is something that's always going to be a moving target. Like, I hardly ever eat lunch just because I don't find the time from when I'm late, turning in my stuff to the dirty dispensary at 12:30 to, late or, running late at 1:40, trying to get my things checked out for the 2 o'clock appointment, and somehow it just falls through the cracks. Anybody remember to drink water today? I do want to get a poll here. Raise your hand if you haven't had a drink of water since you stepped foot in the building today. Or if you can't remember having one. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and raise my hand on that one too, even though I have a water bottle right here. I can't count the times where I've had a water bottle full in my backpack and it has never left the backpack once, right? So prioritize yourself. That class 2 prep is not gonna be important if you're dead on the floor, right? So you have to have a frame of reference for why it is that we're doing these things. And we want to have a life worth living once we get out of dental school. So that involves us trying to take a modicum of care of ourselves while we're in dental school. Good sleep habits. This is something I've been really trying to improve upon as a D3, especially as a D4, just because of the nature of when you're expected to be on. D1s and D2s, especially D2s, I'm sorry for you. I didn't figure out a formula for how to sleep well during D2 year. I kind of got somewhere close near the end, and I figured out that like the 3 to 5 or 6 a.m. time slot was like my time to shine, right? So I would go to bed at 8 o'clock so I could get a good at least 6 or 7 hours of sleep so that I could be on for those moments when I knew I was most available to myself and least distracted. And avoidance of destructive habits. It doesn't mean that you can't have a drink of alcohol while you're in dental school, right? Some of you might be choosing to do that for one reason or another, and that's great. But that doesn't mean that, if you like to stay up and play video games on Friday night, and that's gonna cut into your 6 hours, you can still do those things, right? But it comes down to prioritization and balance. Balance is such an important thing. These are all things that you guys already know, but I'm just trying to put it into a frame of reference based on things that I've experienced while in school. If you need a pinch hitter to your wedding, Miranda and I make great reception dancers. We're not really good dancers, but we are enthusiastic, if not to say the least. I hope this works. Let's see. It doesn't look like it's going to. This is a video of me backwards crab crawling. Dadgummit.
Yeah, you can show us right now.
I can't show you right now. I need at least a 50-foot or 50-yard stretch of space to, 1, to get going, and 2, to stop, because I've hit my noggin way too many times. Oh, this one works, great. So as I said, I like to perform. That's kind of my deep love besides my wife. And so intellectual wellness. This is one of those things that don't skirt the fact that we're doing an incredibly intellectually stimulating career, right? But it doesn't all have to be dentistry, right? It doesn't have to be teeth 24/7, right? You all got in here due to some amazing, I'm gonna come over here because there's a pillar in the way from like this side of the room. You all got here due to some exemplary thing that was other than dental, right? Because we didn't start learning dentistry until we got here. Yeah, we all did some volunteering, probably worked as an assistant, but how much actual dental exposure did you get before coming to dental school? What other things did you enjoy doing that intellectually got you going, got the cogs turning before you got to dental school, right? And how many of those things have we dropped off? Think about something that you did, that you enjoyed, that was just for the pure sake of qualitative learning that we aren't doing right now, just due to the fact that we just don't have the time for it. Supporting educational events. So once you get out of dental school, you're going to still be a student, right? Legally, you have to be, because you got to get CE. So if you want to keep your license up, you got to have CE. So do research and go do CE that you want to do, right? Go learn about stuff that you're actually invested in that's going to help you and your patient base move forward, right? You don't have to go to a dental expanded techniques in extractions and oral surgery and alveoloplasty, CE, if taking third molars out gives you nightmares, right? That doesn't have to be that way once you're outside of dental school. And that's a great thing. Sometimes we can kind of lose the trees for the forest in that regard. D3s, D4s, when I give my presentation here in a few weeks, I'll talk about why I found being involved in organized dentistry was the best career move that I ever made while in dental school, and why I don't have any plan to stop once I get out of dental school. And then nurturing your curiosity. Like, again, we're all curious because we're all dental students, right? We wouldn't be in dental school if there wasn't something weird ticking inside of us that we need to know how stuff ticks and how it's made up and how it's layered, right? So don't be afraid to try those things. This is me and Miranda playing for some of her students. We did a little mini recital. This is us playing, you might recognize it. Darling, it's weather, darling, it's weather, take it from me. Okay, right. Yeah. A little under the sea action for you. That was just for funs and giggles. Just did that in our house. So a little nugget here for you is what seems like the silliest or most oddball idea can sometimes be a game changer. One of my favorite parts of being involved with ASDA is that you get to be a consultant with the ADA for any number of councils and committees that the ADA has active at the time. I was involved with the council on annual meetings, so I got to help plan SmileCon, and a big component of that with the dentists, because who goes to SmileCon? Dentists, right? So a big aspect of that planning session was dream weaving and just thinking, what could SmileCon be? We want a puppy booth. We want people who are stressed to go in and be able to pet and be absorbed by 12 puppies and then come out and do it again if they want to, right? We don't want it to be related to dentistry at all. We want people to be able to have like a caricature assassin, right? Someone who does a caricature of you without you knowing it and runs up and gives it to you and then runs away. All of those things, are they involving dentistry? No, but they're surprise, shock, and delight. All of the things that we want to keep having people to come back to our events for, in addition to that great CE that you're going to be receiving and those networking connections that you have. Does anybody recognize this right here in the middle? Anybody ever been to New Mexico? Anybody ever been to Denver? Any of my annual session people? Yeah, so this is Meow Wolf in Santa Fe. This is the original Meow Wolf location. Anybody know what this is? Is he just saying weird words? So Meow Wolf is like this kind of like psychedelic, extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial grab bag of sensory overload. So it's typically coupled with a narrative, so a storyline that if you want to, you can do a deeper dive into it and kind of find out this mystery. If not, you can just go in and see all this crazy stuff like walking through a coral forest underwater with fish swimming above you, or walking through a refrigerator and then all of a sudden you're in another dimension. So little cool things like that, and again, intellectually stimulating. I've done some operas. This is me performing the role of Tamino in Mozart's Magic Flute. Okay, occupational wellness. This one is difficult to put a pin on. Yeah, sorry, I was like, what are they laughing at? This is the reason that you want to get involved in organized dentistry, because you'll have people unsolicitedly randomly send you stuff like Judd the Tooth Bud. And I will never forget it, and I'll always be grateful for that image. If I ever need a laugh, I'll take a look at that. In terms of occupational wellness, this is how we find fulfillment within the span of our chosen profession, right? That can be very difficult when you're only working on a plastic tooth, right? D1s. D2s, that can be difficult when you're like, why am I just playing with wax all the live long day? D3s, that can be difficult when you have to take a trip back from patient-based care to go, why am I doing this CD over natural product? D4s, that can be difficult when you have to go, why am I doing this CD project again? Spoiler alert, D3s, it's coming again. So cultivating a good work-life balance. This is something that if you're a prototypical overextender, you might not be so great at, right? You might need some work on how much we're committing versus how much free time we have, how much time we have to afford with our loved ones, and how much time we're allotting for just stuff that might come up, right? I am historically bad at this. Positive working relationships. This hits on the nose, I think, with dental school, where we're expected to be the most perfect, pleasant versions of ourselves. We're expected to take feedback respectfully, even if it's not provided to us in a respectful manner. We're expected to act in a positive way with our patients, even if the first thing that they say when they walk through the door is, I hate the dentist. You're like, okay, that's great. I'm doing all right. How are you? So it's incredibly difficult to be occupationally well sometimes. Anybody know Dr. Paris in here? Dr. Paris is one of the first people to tell you dentistry is a thankless job, right? There will be plenty of people that are thankful for everything that you do for them, right? But in life, especially like with the news, with our social media, the negative always is more boisterous. It's always louder for some reason, right? It always resonates more. And we always are left at the end of the day thinking back to those few negative things that might have interrupted an otherwise really enjoyable, peaceful day, right? So again, that doesn't mean that dentistry is not a thankful career. People will certainly be thankful for the job that you do. But there will be your fair share of people who, regardless of how good of a job you've done, regardless of how perfect that VDO is on your denture or how tight those margins are on that crown, they're just not gonna be happy, right? And that's not your fault, but you can take that home with you. So let's try to be occupationally well so that we don't. And then continual development of our skills to help us perform better for ourselves, better for our patients, better for our families and our sustenance. Anybody involved in the Cardinal Guide program, either as a director, a Cardinal Guide, or just as a member who's been a D1 and went to something with your Cardinal Guides, it's great. So D1 year, D4s, if you can think back, it was COVID. We didn't know anybody. We knew maybe 10 people to our name in the town of Louisville. And we had our Cardinal Guides who reached out to us. Mine reached out to me and we scheduled something to go outside where we could all meet in person. And this meant the world to me because there had not been a single in-person thing up to that point that I had gotten to do as a dental student. This may be foreign to you. You're like, man, I would love nothing more than to not see these people on a regular basis. But for us, it was a really challenging thing. So always be thankful for what you have because it could be completely different, right? So think about dental school as moving a pile of dirt. This is what Brian Gantner had to say. So when you think of moving dental school as moving a pile of dirt, some days you're going to feel like you're chugging along. You're using a front end loader. Some days maybe not so productive. You're using a shovel. Some days you're going to feel like you're using a baby spoon, right? But here's the thing, is as long as you're using that baby spoon, you're still moving dirt, right? You're still getting closer to the end game. Just don't make a habit out of the majority of your days being moving dirt with a baby spoon, right? Because then you're going to be a D5 and nobody wants that. So a leadership nugget here is to recognize when more effort is needed, but give yourself grace also. So if things aren't panning out for you, if you're not making the preps that you want, nobody's going to improve that but you, right? Dr. Whitney's not going to blow advice into your ear and that's going to make you all of a sudden a better practitioner, right? This is speaking from experience, as much as I love Dr. Whitney blowing in my ear. But here's the thing is nobody's going to move that goalpost but you. So recognize that, but also give yourself grace. If you're a dental student, then you're probably historically bad about being gracious with yourself when you mess up, or if you mess up. If you're one of those freaks of nature, I certainly do. And I like to think that every single one of us has had something not go according to plan while in dental school, right? So how do we handle the fallout, the ripple effect from that is more defines us than the actual moment itself. This is just me speaking at NLC. This is me with some of my first extraction cases. It was like a full mouth. They throw you right into it. It's all fun. Like if you're nervous about that, I was pretty nervous, but now extracting is one of my favorite things to do. So we can always grow within our occupation, right? And this is just my SmileCon planning team celebrating the fruits of our labors. Finally, as does Wellness Initiative in terms of environmental wellness. We do a really great job of this here at ULSD with all of our personal protective equipment and barriers. I said we should actually, as like a community service and sustainability fundraiser, we should have a PPE fashion show where like teams get together, and it has to be discarded, right? So D1s, like the stuff that isn't infectious, like stuff that y'all have just set up to tear back down, like store that stuff up somewhere so that LASD can come in, take it, and then like groups of teams can get together and make like macho men with, you know, big bags or like a big flowy gown dress, this sort of thing, all with PPE, right? Or a swimsuit or an athleisure outfit, right? And we raise money and it goes to sustainability initiatives, right? So remember that other leadership nugget, no matter how cockamamie the idea, it might be something someday. So I'm on the way out, right? But if PPE fashion show, that's something that's your rosebud and it's speaking to you, you got some more time to make it happen, right? So in terms of environmental wellness, this is making sure that we're in sync with what's around us. D1s, D2s, D4s who studied completely remotely in 2020 and 2021, think to how your study space looks right now. Your desk that you go home to, is it nice and clean? Is it free of trash? Does it have some space where you can spread things out and work with? Or does it look like mine often devolves into, and is it this kind of Picasso and Art Nouveau landscape of nightmares? It's kind of like the Scream, right? Does it have food stuff? Does it have yesterday's lunch? Does it have 2 weeks ago's assignment that you forgot to turn in? Hopefully that's all digital at this point, so that's not clogging up your space. But what about your digital environment? How many tabs do you have open on your computer at a given time, right? Is it 47? Is it 47 different windows? My papa used to play solitaire. He passed away just a couple of years ago, but he would open up a new game every time he wanted to play a new game, so he would open up a new window. And at one point we came in, we're like, Papa, why's your computer running so slow? Oh, it's because you have 40 tabs of solitaire up at a single time. He's like, oh, it's not supposed to be that way? No, it's not. It's not supposed to be that way with us either, right? By the way, a dual screen study setup is the best thing that I ever did. D1s, D2s, if you haven't done so yet, I promise it will increase your productivity 10 times because you're not having to, where did I put that tab? Why did I close that out? Being comfortable with the community that you're in and recognizing that our personal and professional decisions can and do impact the environment around us. So there may be many of you thinking, you know, why would I get involved in organized dentistry? There's already plenty of people who are making a difference with that in the first place. Well, you are making a decision by doing that, but the absence of your presence in that capacity is detrimentally affecting someone else. That's just how it is, right? Whereas you might be missing out on being positively affected by someone that you might meet at a local society conference or at a district meeting or at an annual session or at your state lobby day. In dental school, it's easy to forget that there's a whole big old wide world out there, and a lot of it doesn't deal with teeth. And there's a lot of non-dental problems to be solved at the same time. So that's kind of an overview of as does wellness initiatives. I'd like to get just a little bit more personal at this point and go into how I've attempted to stay well relative to the leadership positions that I've been fortunate enough to have while in dental school. These are all pictures of our District 7 cabinet or local Louisville officers or our entire attendee base that was at the District 7 meeting in 2022. Props to Josh Montgomery for the great aerial photo of all of us as a 7. That's like 150 people right there. So that was a really cool thing to get to do. So how I got here, well, how I got there, my D1 year, right? So I've already mentioned the COVID bit. It was kind of difficult to get any traction with any sort of ideas that you had. But before I even started dental school, D1s, you probably remember this event. We attended an Ask Me Anything session that was put on just by a few D2s, D3s, members of LASDA. Didn't have any administrators there. Audra checked in and then left. So this was our first exposure to like our upperclassmen without any sort of filter, right? How many of you kind of feel like you got a song and dance response to something about this dental school, like in your interview day or from administrators? I'm not trying to dog them, but that's how they do things. That's how any dental school does things, right? They have to put their best foot forward, as do we in our interview day, right? And so like, how many of you think that like it didn't pan out the same way as you thought it would? Well, this was kind of that incarnate. It was living, breathing humans telling us, here's what you can expect in dental school. Here's what maybe you were told you shouldn't expect. Had people telling us, you don't have to get all A's. You don't have to try your best on every single thing. In fact, you will probably go insane if you do that. And as you know, a formerly academic type A, this was, this blew my head out of the water. Like what? I don't have to sell my firstborn in order to get A's in this particular class. If you don't want to specialize, or if you don't want to do a particular specialty, then a lot of times, no, you don't. So find a way to learn for learning's sake that makes it digestible and relevant to you, but that's functional and practical moving forward. Because we do need to know dental stuff, right? Maybe if you were an English major in college, you don't necessarily need to remember all of the ins and outs of iambic pentameter moving forward for dental school or for dentistry, but you definitely have to remember a good bit of dentistry moving forward in dentistry, all right? So I got involved with the DLT. Any DLT people in here? Any DLT alumni in here, if you were on DLT before? Yeah. So DLT is a really, really great project that I think Taylor Walker-Smith and Audra kind of conceived. She was kind of my mentor into ASDA and LASDA, kept me from going crazy. So you might be that person to somebody else who's entering the door or who's here already. That one thing led to another. We had a cleanup event. The graduating D4s were having a hard time finding a way to get their community service hours. So this was a great way of fitting the bill, allowing them to do that, allowing our D1s that hadn't met anybody to have a safe space where they could now meet some new classmates potentially. I mean, I really didn't expect it to really be this big of a thing, but here we are 3 years later, and we're still trying to have some cleanup downtowns every now and again. The good thing about Louisville is that's job security. There's always going to be trash to clean up downtown, right? At the district level, I attended our virtual district meeting, and if any of you, doing interviews to get into dental school or had primarily, classes in undergrad or your master's that were virtual, you know that it's about like watching paint dry to attend a virtual conference where you know that otherwise, like if you went in person, there'd be parties and you'd be meeting people and having fun and having great, like engaging, dynamic lecturers that are keeping you on the edge of your seat. I caught ASDA fever at our virtual District 7 meeting. Maybe it wasn't as pomp and circumstance as an in-person meeting was, but what I saw was the behind-the-scenes work that went into making a virtual event for 100-something people happen and look professional and look polished, right? So there was an entire team of people that even though they didn't get to go to their in-person conference, their work was largely under-celebrated due to the fact that nobody saw them doing it. They still put on a really, really amazing event. They had great speakers. I found ways to connect. And I had a histology exam on Monday, so I still got to stay at home and study. I was like, man, this is the best of all possible worlds. So that being said, just as a note to my D1s and D2s, you're always going to have another exam, right? You won't always have another chance to go to an ASDA conference. So I heartily encourage you, if things are looking at their most bleak, or for somebody else that you want to go to a conference and they're like, I just can't take the time away, encourage them to do so. The study time will make itself up. You will find a way to make that grade. But you can't find a way to go back in time and make some misconnections. At the national level, I attended our virtual annual session, which again was kind of like, it's virtual, but at the same time, we got to see our national leaders elected. We got to see be involved in the process where our district trustees were elected. And that just meant the world to me to kind of have such an intimate look into how our association that we love so much at the local level actually operates and how the people that are in charge of that and keeping it running day to day are elected or chosen for their positions and how you can get there if that's something that you might want to do. So I want to incorporate like kind of where I was and how I felt into these years and how I was getting there at the time. So again, it doesn't look like it was all sunshine and rainbows. And look, I have a few more lows for D1 year than I do highs. Yay, we started dental school. Yay, we bought our first home. Little did we know that we bought our first home next to meth dealers, had concerns about practicing dentistry. I still have concerns about practicing dentistry full-time at the clinical level, and I nearly failed and remediated waxing, biochemistry, and operative. Spoiler alert, I've nearly failed and remediated something every single year. This is our virtual Spring 1 DLT event. Spring break's a beach, and spring break is a beach, or at least it was for us, because our spring break got taken away. We got mental health Mondays, but they didn't want people traveling on COVID, so it got taken away. Here's the thing, D4's got spring break taken away again this year because they put our boards at the last weekend of spring break. So they just don't want us to have spring break, our class in particular. So I hope it goes better for y'all. So D2 year, I love Cardinal Initiative and DLT so much that I took the position on as co-director. Brianna Gill is a great friend and colleague of mine. She took it on as co-director as well. We ran the Cardinal Guide program. We ran the D1 leadership track, helped create a really great D1 event for those of you that are D3s. Hope you had fun with your Swerve the Scurve party. That was a really great theme that y'all came up with. At the district level, I served as an events coordinator. For my work in that capacity, I was selected as the rising leader of ASDA District 7, and there were a lot of really, really great qualified candidates to choose from, so that was quite the honor. And then I was elected District 7 trustee at annual session here in Louisville in 2022. It was neat to have ASDA's national event here in our backyard back in 2022. At the national level, I served on the board of trustees, and I'll go into a little bit of detail here in a second, and if you have any questions about what that means. And I served on our National Council on Advocacy, which is responsible for things like Advocacy Month, sending out the Molar Bear, which we, at the national level and across the board, everyone loves. It's crazy. This is Taylor Walker-Smith, whom I mentioned, and Chandler Unfried. They were kind of my DLT mentors into LASDA and ASDA. And then this is Justina Anibo. She's immediate past national ASDA president, immediate past District 7 trustee now. So here's some behind the scenes for D2. Like I told you, quite a few lows there as well. So I had an increased role within ASDA. I had an increased platform and increased voice. I built a patio. That was one of my physical wellness slides, was that I built a brick paver patio. I almost gave myself sepsis, getting an infection I didn't know about. That was fun. Then I had that gingival graft that put me in the ER. That was really, really fun. So I had better next door neighbors though. They weren't dealing meth. I celebrated my 30th birthday and I got to travel to Chicago and DC. Those were the places that I got to travel within my role of ASDA as a D2. Lows, when my grandfather passed away. I still have concerns about practicing dentistry, a litany of health issues that I've already mentioned, some financial strain. I remember I was talking to Janelle, it was in West Lab, and I was like, hey Janelle, I don't know what to do. The value of my house just went up, and now the IRS wants us to pay $4,000 more money that we don't have for the value of our house going up. And we had to pay it, so those things come up. And then I nearly failed or remediated RPD lecture and lab, and nearly failed OPATH. I'm glad that OPATH is going better apparently than what it was when we were D2s. Thankful for you guys for that respect. Don't ever be a we had it this way so you should too dental student or dentist. Please be the I'm so happy to hear that the dragon has been slain and that your Camelot can now prosper and be a lot better for it. This is at annual session 2022. This is Devon Harris. He is the namesake for Doris from Cool Runnings. So he's the person that Doris from Cool Runnings is actually named after and designed after. That's the first Jamaican bobsled team, right, that went to the Olympics in the 90s. And then these are two my colleagues that I ran against as for District 7 trustee back in 2022. So how I got to D3. D3 was certainly the busiest for me because I served as District 7 trustee. So when you serve as trustee, you're kind of it as far as the district goes and making decisions. The buck stops with you. The books stop with you. So you really have to be on it. And I'm going to fly through this. I apologize. If you have places that you need to be at 1, I will, but I'll probably go right up until about 12:55 or so, just so you know. At the local level, I've served as a national ASDA liaison for 2 years. I'm thankful for our officers for giving me that role because it didn't exist before I served as the national, but I still wanted to have some capacity in the local. The trade-off is that you don't have as much time to be involved in your local chapter, right? And LASDA is a really great chapter to be involved in, so that does kind of cut. But at the same time, as trustee, kind of made up for it. We had an officers retreat in July of 22. We had our district meeting in October of 2022. Anybody go to that? Raise your hand if you went to the ASDA District 7 meeting. I see Jake over there, Josh over here, took some great pictures, Becca. Like to think that that was a really, really great event. It was all themed about creating better connections and communicational channels between our fellow schools and chapters and colleagues. I had a series of virtual webinars, a 10-part series that I think went very, very well and had a decent amount of engagement. Sometimes we had like 40 people, 50 people there. So for a webinar, it's pretty good. We had a litany of giveaways associated with these. So I found the best way to get attendance was to have a gift card or like a comp registration to one of our events coming up. So that's a great way of incentivizing attendance while also giving your people a great reward out of it. And we had a unified day of service. You may have been a part of this. People showed up at the local level for a breakfast and learn. They had some breakfast. Lumio Dental gave a district-wide virtual presentation to everybody that showed up to their school campuses to have breakfast. And then everybody from a District 7 perspective went out into their respective communities and performed some sort of service work, which I think is really, really great that we had that solidarity being expressed. Incidentally, now we have a month of service with ASDA, which I'm so excited about. It's only been a week of service historically. Now it's a whole month. At the national level, I served on the strategic planning committee for ASDA, which means that I was involved in shaping our 3 to 5 year plan moving forward. I won't even be in dental school when like years 2 and 3 of this 3 to 5 year plan are being enacted. But that's kind of the cool thing about getting involved is that you leave kind of a blueprint for those that come after you to get involved themselves. And if you did your job right, you'll be able to look back on it with pride. I did a webinar with the Advocacy Council. I was a contributing writer for Contour, and again, served on the SmileCon Planning Committee. So courses that I almost failed in D3 year include OMED, Periodontics 3, and very, very like 1 point close to Pediatrics 2. Like I'm almost embarrassed to admit that. But just as like a clinical bit of advice, in those classes as D3s, when you get there and there's 2 tests, do really well in the midterm. Like do what it takes to study for the midterm so that you're confident moving into the final, because you don't want to be a walking ball of cortisol like I was with all of these end of semester dues coming in, right? So we had our District 7 meeting. I was elected to National ASDA Executive Committee as Vice President. I got to travel more than I've ever traveled in a single year in my life. I went to Chicago, DC, Lexington, Indianapolis, Milwaukee, Orlando, Raleigh, Denver, and Seattle, and I might have missed some. And I joined the Louisville Chamber Choir. Again, find that way to intellectually stimulate yourself that's not directly or even indirectly involved with dentistry, right? And you'll be all the better for it. This is one of my best buddies from the Board of Trustees, Gil. He was the District 2 trustee, so New York area. This is at District 7 meeting. This is a contingent of Louisville officers at Lobby Day, and this is our 2022 and 23 Board of Trustees. So how I got to D4 year, where I am currently, and almost out of it. So again, National ASDA Liaison for LASDA. I like to think I've helped out, hopefully, with DLT just a little bit. Not that they need help. You guys are doing a fantastic job organizing your event. I know it's just going to be a banger. And then this Lunch and Learn series, I've worked a little bit with the Kentucky Dental Association in terms of trying to implement some statewide increases to dental Medicaid because it hasn't increased since the 80s, and it's really, really piss poor. And it's sad that there's a whole population of people. Kentucky is 51st for oral health care, by the way. We're dead last. And we haven't increased our Medicaid dental reimbursement since the 80s. So if that doesn't get the blood boiling in your pants, then I don't know what will. Finally, at the national ASDA level, at the district level, I served as immediate past D7 trustee. Hopefully I can be a resource for those that follow. I'd love to be a speaker at one of those events. Heads up, Darius. And then at the national level, I served as an EC member with probably weekly or bi-weekly EC meetings, a member of the Board of Trustees where we had an entire representation. This is the best picture illuminating that. The Board of Trustees is those 11 individuals that make up the 11 districts of ASDA, 1 person per district, and then an executive committee of 4 individuals, and a secretary, Nancy Honeycutt. She's the 5th member who stays on every single year. This is us at the ADA House of Delegates in 2023 in Orlando. As was stated in my email, I had the privilege of chairing that delegation, which in turn represented all of you. So all 23,000 dental students were represented by our delegation at the ADA House of Delegates, voting for resolutions that we wanted to see the dental profession backing, voting against resolutions that we didn't think were in the interests of dental students, voting for candidates for elected office who we thought would best represent the rights, interests, and welfare of dental students, and voting no confidence for those that we didn't think would. So it really was a true honor. I served on the NLC Planning Committee in 2023. I served as a SmileCon Planning Committee member, and now I serve on the Council on Dental Education and Licensure as a consultant for things like the INBDE, the Joint Commission on Standardizing Dental Education, the Commission on Modernizing Dental Licensure, and a host of other endeavors. So I think that should say, yeah, behind the scenes. So let's see here. I get to travel a little bit, not as much as I did last year, but I did get to go to Connecticut for the first time, which was really neat for the the District 1 meeting. And hopefully graduating dental school. There's a question mark there, because never think that you're in it until you're out of it, right? So, and then some final lows. That is my end of time with ASDA. So as much of a stressor as it sometimes could be, and it could be very much a pressure cooker, these are some of the most dear 3 and 4 years of my life that I've ever gotten to have. It brought me closer to a lot of you, and for that I am so forever thankful. So I am sad to see it go, but glad to watch it leave. So classmates going separate ways, that is something, of course, that I'm very keen on and very sad about. Uncertainty about my professional future. As I said, I'm uncertain about clinical dentistry and practicing that, right? So what does a profession in dentistry look like that doesn't involve full-time clinical dentistry? Well, I spent about 3 years trying to figure that out, and I think I've got a nail on it. So D3s and D4s, if you are like me, and practicing part-time is something that you're interested in down the road, but not necessarily a full-time gig, know yourself, right? Be candid about what it is that you want and come talk to me, because I've had a pretty unique go through dental school. I'm not saying that like it's been better or worse than any of you, but it has just been different in a lot of ways, right? Because I think I have the record for most non-pregnant associated red forms that have been filled out for missing clinic. So that's given me a lot of time out in the field to get these viewings and observations. So feel free to talk to me. And then I failed practice management or had to remediate. I failed my mock boards in many capacities, and I failed endo on 8X boards. So I've still got to repeat that, right? So I think that one of the best ways to work through our insecurities and our perceived failures and hangups is being open about how they occurred, or that they occurred in the first place, right? So that's me kind of in a nutshell. So why the hell do I give this talk anyway, right? Why are you guys taking a trip down memory lane with me, seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly? So again, if all you think is, wow, he had a great time in dental school, I have failed in this presentation. I want you to know that I had anything but a linear path through dental school. There were times where I felt like, oh, I've now gone full 180 and I'm going back to D1 year. Like I'm a D3 and I'm heading back in the wrong direction, right? So it was not linear, and I don't ever want to pretend that it was. Where I'm going with this is that people who could be the most amazing leaders, the people that are most inspired to get involved, sometimes don't apply because they're afraid they don't have what it takes. I don't know how to balance all of these things at once. I'm too afraid to go to this event for fear of what's going to happen in pathology this next week, right? Many times, leaders who don't have the qualifications or the will to perform the work end up being the ones to apply for these roles, be it a resume coder, be it this and that, they were misguided, what have you, right? So don't skirt your ability to make some change, right? Just because you're not perfect, who is, right? Doesn't mean that you're not a viable candidate for one of these positions you might be interested in. Dental school can be very tough on your mental health. I'm just going to say that. There's no associated extra point with that. I just want you to know that. It has been for me. I've had some really, really cavernous lows. I've had points where I unhyperbolically said, I'd like to cut my hand off so that I can take out the ADA student disability and not have to continue dental school, maybe move to Mexico or like a non-extraditing country and perform black market dentistry and then like, you know, get away with that, right? And that, again, like these are all things that like I led myself to that place, right? And it's funny now, but I was in it at that moment, right? And you may be in it, and I'm not meaning to make light of that if you are. Finally, find an outlet for enrichment and escape. Find something that's non-dental related to get yourself out of the dental space, right? By daring yourself to fail, you'll find out just how strong you actually are. How can you fall with style? Because I'll be candid, that's how I feel like my entire dental school career has gone. I've had these great positions, and I've had these wonderful opportunities to make these connections, and all of these people that I'm meeting think, wow, you must have it all together if you're doing this. And under the surface, I'm thinking, wow, I really have you fooled. I'm glad I got a performance major because I'm good at performing at least, right? So what's next? What's next for ASDA? Just a quick overview. I know this is kind of getting into the weeds, but the District 7 as we know it will actually go away at the 2025 annual session. So we will now, there's currently 11 districts as I mentioned. We will become part of District 6, the states that you can see in the blue. Oh, whoops. Kentucky, Tennessee, and Arkansas if we ever get a dental school. Dad blame it. And then what that does, what redistricting allows us to do is to accommodate the growing number of students and new chapters that are coming on board. There's like 6 new dental schools that are slated to open up within the next few years. And the safe amount of schools within a district is about 5 to 7. And so some of us have already blown past that. So what this does is it helps us to grow as an association. And LASDA, being a 1 year ago Gold Crown or like Chapter of the Year nationally award for ASDA, is poised to help with that. So we're going to move from District 7 to District 6. District 7 has a great culture right now. We don't know Case Western. Oh, excuse me. We don't know Lincoln Memorial, Meharry, University of Tennessee, right? We don't know what their culture is, but we do know that LASDA has a really involved, vivacious culture. And so if we just hit the ground running at our new district and show what LASDA has to offer, surely the door will open for us, right? And that's the new District 7 right there, what it will be. Finally, can I skip to what's next for you before you guys leave? So, what is next for you guys? Again, it's okay to not be okay. It's never okay to not let somebody know that you are not okay. Be courageous if you're on the fence about getting involved in something like this. Take a baby step, right? Ask somebody what's it about, and then maybe you'll have the courage to actually get involved too. What uniqueness can you offer to help do good, dentally or outside of the dental profession? As does what you get out of, as is what you put into it, is what you get out of it type of organization. If you put in a little, you're gonna get back a little. But if you put in a lot, you're gonna get dividends that you will reap for the foreseeable future of your career. Finally, and I mean this seriously, there's never a good time for anything in dental school. You wanna go eat, it's not a good time. You wanna sleep, it's not a good time. You wanna go and hang out with your family, oh, your grandfather died, it's not a good time. It's not a good time to get involved with organized dentistry until it is. So make it a good time. Make it a good time to go to these events. Are you on the fence about full-time clinical? Come and talk to me. If you're a D4, you're not on the hook. Just because you're a D4 doesn't mean you have missed your opportunity to get involved with organized dentistry. You are a dentist a hell of a lot longer than you are a dental student, right? All that ASDA is doing is pipelining our student leaders into becoming national and district and local dental leaders. So that doesn't mean if you were so focused on school during that time that you got to pass, because we need you. The dental profession needs you. We need an objective third party that's going to stand up to corporate interests and venture capital and private equity money and to go to bat for public health all across the country, because that's what it's going to take for dentistry not to become medicine. That's my TED Talk. Join as an officer in 2024-25. Look for district cabinet apps. They may have already gone out. I think Darius has been pretty quick with them. So talk to our exec if that's the case. Local LASDA applications will be coming out soon. If you want more information about how to become a national leader on the council or on the board of trustees, please talk to me. These are just pictures of me as I've gone through my career in LASDA. I really like to take pictures. Again, thank you guys so much for being here. Hope you enjoyed lunch. If you have any questions, feel free to come and ask. D1s and D2s, hope to see you at our next session. That is coming up. 25. D3s and D4s will be back here on April 15th. Thank y'all again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Slay John, here you go.
Thank you.
Judd for president. Good job. Good job.
Thanks.
You're such a great presenter.
Oh, you need this.
Awkward.
It's like waving to somebody that's not waving.